Mac, Nile has mounted a full counterattack. We've hit him on the southern front, but...
Distress call coming in, sir. Source, outside Cairo.
Boosted. I fear my mission has failed. At Kane's temple in Cairo, I found a missile that will soon destroy the Earth. And Umagan.
Ava, greenlight all forces. Set coordinates for Cairo.
We need a larger attack force, more time to plan. If Kane's back is to the wall, he could unleash the Tiberium effect all over the world. I will not authorize it.
I'm sorry, sir. I'm going in.
Impulse signatures emanating from Cairo suggest Kane will launch his world-altering missile within hours. You must destroy the Pyramid Temple before he has the chance to launch. There are no alternatives.
Welcome back, Commander, to the final episode in the GDI campaign. We've got a little bit of base clearing to do, so I'm just gonna put it out there that I always find it weird, the cutscenes and how they're like used and what they portray. It's just weird to see the Kodiak fly above a Temple of Nod or whatever. Even though there should clearly be some defenses to a structure like that.
Yes, sir.
Or in, say, the previous episode, when a bunch of orcas suddenly could fly in an iron storm.
Sir.
And they were fighters, but didn't launch rockets? Yeah, maybe I'm just being too picky. It should be mentioned, though, because I only checked the walkthrough for last mission now.
Unit ready. You got it.
Because I was curious, and just because I wanted to see if there's anything
Unit ready.
special for this last mission that I may have missed. But in the previous episode, there's actually a break in the iron storm. It took me like 40 minutes or so, I believe, is what the timer had, at least to get like near the end, or at the end. So I'm not quite sure how long that iron storm is initially supposed to last. I would, I guess, imagine an hour at this point, but I don't know. Something definitely to look into when I check the triggers for the map video. It's interesting because the note actually says a break occurs during the storm, lasts about 30 minutes, etc., etc. So, yeah, interesting. It's also interesting how McNeil has suddenly grown very fond of Umagan to the point of risking everything for her. I probably shouldn't nitpick the story. I can't say I paid too much attention to it when I was a kid.
Could be worth looking into. Moving out. Unit ready. Moving out.
It is interesting, though, to see that Kane seems to be quite different.
Infantry reporting.
And, well, one has to wonder, is this some sort of result of an issue with Tiberium, with all the production he's been doing? Is there some sort of problem that we're just not privy to yet? Or, worse off, is that Kane?
Construction complete.
Is there a body double? What exactly seems to be going on, really, at the heart of the personality of Kane?
Yes, sir. 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 Yes, sir.
There's another interesting part of this level specifically, but you don't... I want to say you don't really notice it. Not until, I don't know, probably 2 minutes from now. Or maybe I'm thinking of a little bit earlier. Basically, it uses the same... okay, yeah, so it was a little bit earlier. At first, that landing area was the only part of the map you have access to. And I believe the devs did that in order to prevent the AI from being able to do stuff
New construction options.
while you're busy, you know, starting up or destroying that main starting area.
Unit ready. Yes, sir. Orders.
I should point out that this is also the first level that I'll be showing off, I think, all of the units. I forget if I build a Mammoth Mark II.
Orders. Got it. Got it.
But there is one interesting unit that we haven't seen yet. More so just because I've been lazy and forget to build it, really. So, this level's tough. Obviously, you should expect that on a final mission in a campaign. And there's some annoying things that the game and the map does. First and foremost, it's really annoying to get your units from where your base is currently to anywhere south. Simply because of the fact that there's that incredibly tight choke point. And there's no way to, like, relieve that. There's no area to, like, produce something or destroy, like, a cliff face or something. You're just stuck. Oh, and we also finally get a super weapon. If any of you watched the first Tiberium Dawn LP I did, you'll note that we're going to get power, or the ability to use the ion cannon again. Yeah, you can probably imagine this is all really tight. And, oh, did you notice that there's a timer on the top right? Yeah, you've basically got an hour before you automatically lose. The threat of the nuclear or Tiberium missile was not to be taken lightly. And unfortunately, you also have to contend with everything that Nod has, including the multi-missiles. It's a little annoying because you kind of have to figure out, you have to really be shot by the first missile to know where they're going to come from, and then you're a little safe. Obviously, it's not always the case when your wall doesn't extend all the way out there. The important part of this mission, basically, is you want to have a decent mix between scouting and defending your base. And if you can bait out the AI and tossing, you know, multi-missiles at component towers, then you're kinda okay. You'll want to invest in some other things too that I haven't really done all that good of a job myself. Namely, hover MLRSs are going to be a friend of yours. The fact that there's just so much water and like bad terrain really gives an advantage to the hover MRLS in being able to go anywhere and strike where the AI may not have its full attention. If you're worried about the timer as well, there's a little bit of a secret to it. Namely that the objective that we have is to basically you're trying to destroy the missile launchers. But the missile launchers aren't what you think they might be. For example, there's a Temple of Nod here, we can see a nuclear silo, but neither of those are related to the mission objective.
Unit ready. Sir.
Oh, and it's kind of cute that there's actually the old Temple of Nod right there.
Sir. Unit ready. Orders received. Unit ready.
I'd say that if you looked at the map, it kind of looks like maybe they made an effort to position it where the old one was, but I'd be lying. It's not even close.
Ion cannon ready. Selected target.
Waiting orders. Unit ready. Waiting orders.
So that was one of the missile launchers.
Waiting order.
And technically, I could have probably saved myself a little bit of trouble by not ion cannoning it, but you know what? It's always fun to use that.
Unit lost.
Loud and clear. You got it. Unit reporting. Unit reporting. Unit ready.
Timer started.
Infantry reporting.
Unit ready.
So I don't know specifically what happened. I think there's, I don't want to say a bug because I don't think it's the case, but I think it's just the way that the triggers may interact in the CNC net version, because it's going on about, you know, ICBM detected, but it doesn't reveal it on the map. And I'm not quite sure if there's some issue with
You got it.
me having destroyed one that was further away than whatever. The point is that
Unit reporting.
there are 3 ICBM launchers, and we've already taken out one, which is great. But it wasn't the one closest to the GDI base.
Training.
I think what happened, or what's supposed to happen under normal circumstances, is that when you destroy an ICBM, it should basically refresh the timer, giving you an extra hour to accomplish your mission. But, I don't know, something wonky happened.
Reporting. Sir. Moving out.
I'm trying to be really fancy here, but if you're playing this mission yourself, you should probably just invest in like 10 jump jet infantry and land them all next to one of the SAM sites, preferably in an area that won't have them get shot either by 2 SAM sites, and then just run them around the island, destroying every last one of them. Because, well, yeah, Nod can still rebuild them.
Waiting orders.
Unit lost.
Yes, sir. Unit ready.
It might seem like a pretty big investment, and to be fair, it kinda is. But if you can get yourself to land even 3 jump jet infantry, you take out all the SAM sites, you're kinda just golden.
I'm taking heavy
Unit
fire.
lost.
Especially once, after you've cleared out all the SAM sites, you can run over to the Hand of Nod and destroy that pretty easily.
Waiting orders. Loud and clear, sir. Unit
Subterranean
reporting.
unit.
You got it.
Subterranean.
Yeah, and I was trying to be cute here and take out the, use the firestorm defenses, but
Unit reporting.
Detected. Harvesting under attack.
yeah, that kinda cost me a lot. Oops.
Sir. Unit ready. Waiting orders. Sir.
I'm not sure if I've ever mentioned it either, but using the firestorm defense
Orders received.
for a limited amount of time is actually pretty nice, because,
Infantry reporting.
well, it doesn't drain it completely, so the refresh timer on it is super small.
Infantry reporting. Yes, sir. Awaiting orders.
Building. Harvester under
Unit
attack.
ready.
Another thing you can do in this mission to kind of cheese it, but not quite as much, is, well, this. As long as you can see the unit, the ion cannon takes it out.
Ion
Unit
cannon
reporting.
ready.
No problem. Unit
Unit
ready.
lost.
Also, this is super annoying to destroy tick tanks and all this.
Unit lost. Harvester under attack. Select.
If I had the money for it,
Unit ready.
basically what I would do is I'd get helipads, use the helipads and their units to take out anything like those tick tanks. But also, another thing you should do and really invest in, because it's a lot smarter than what I'm doing right now.
Yes, sir. Loud and clear.
Get like, I don't know, 6 or 7 disc throwers, and just have them attack the ground so that they eventually destroy the bridge, and then just keep destroying the bridge forever. Because they'll repair it. I think they keep sending engineers into it anyways at like regular intervals. But if you destroy it, then you don't have to worry about that crap.
Sir.
Building. On hold. Construction complete. Building.
And yeah, this is basically the kind of repetition that you want to do. You find whatever ICBM you've quote-unquote discovered or is threatening you. Find it with anything you can.
Firestorm.
If you can get a jump to infantry or air unit there, hey, all the better. And then, ion cannon the hell out of it.
Construction complete. Firestorm.
Unit ready. Received. On my way. Yes, sir.
It's pretty fun using the ion storm defenses to just melt away units.
Building.
Waiting orders. Unit on my way. Yes,
Now,
sir.
technically, there's nothing that would stop me from, say, putting pavement everywhere to prevent this sort of thing. But honestly, pavement kind of has its own issues associated with them. Or with it, I should say. It costs a lot. Well, to blanket an entire area, it costs a lot. You can't build it out further than your base.
Waiting orders.
There's so much like dead ground in terms of like cliff sides or the hillsides that units could just get through anyways. There's just not much of a point investing in it, basically.
No problem. Unit ready.
If I had, say, a little bit less ground to cover and it was all flat,
Unit reporting.
yeah, I'd probably invest in it, but obviously that's not the case.
Unit reporting. Sir? Sir? Waiting.
It also doesn't help that I've got a hard enough time just covering my base with units. I don't really have the money to just like start tossing pavement everywhere.
On my way.
Especially since that still doesn't fix the problem
No problem.
of the units showing up.
Primary set. Training. On hold. Building.
Engineering 10%.
Unit lost. Construction complete. Building. Building captured.
Sir, loud and I'm loud.
Structure sold.
Engineering
Building.
trouble 10%.
Construction
Now this is the true way to beat all levels in this game.
captured. Unit
Waiting.
ready.
No trouble. Unit reporting.
It might not be the fastest, but cost efficiency goes way up when you do this.
Unit lost. Building captured.
I do admit I really like the animation that it plays when the missile just blows up on impact.
On hold.
Now, had I not destroyed the bridge, or say gotten a unit across before destroying it, I would have been able to take advantage of that whole missile launching thing.
Training.
Waiting orders. On my way.
I guess for now it'll just have to wait until another campaign.
Unit ready.
Honestly, it'd probably be a better idea for me to just sell a bunch of stuff.
Yes, sir.
The only real reason why you wouldn't is because the AI has a tendency, like in previous games, to just rebuild anywhere it wants. Like it doesn't have the range limitation, but it also only rebuilds. That artillery unit deserved it. but it also only rebuilds in locations that's pre-designated. So if I was to sell those power plants and it had enough money, it'd probably just replace them. At the end of the day, it's probably not the biggest deal to even worry about because, well, I got a barracks right next to it, so I could just recapture it. But it's just kind of time-consuming to do so.
Yes, sir. No problem. Affirmative.
I'd suggest not really waiting too long on using your ion cannon.
Waiting order.
It doesn't take forever to ever rebuild, and generally speaking, unless you're trying to remove a specific building or like you're waiting on an ICBM, you're better off just using it, even if it's on an artillery unit that's driving you mad for the entire mission.
Sir.
It should be noted that you should also save it for units that won't survive it.
Unit reporting.
The real reason is just because if you use it on a building that doesn't die immediately to it,
Yes, sir. Sir.
well, it just gets repaired, and there's nothing you can really do to stop that. So,
Unit ready. Waiting orders.
Unit lost.
there we go. See, that's why I don't really destroy buildings.
Construction complete.
Now, capturing and selling, that's an entirely different thing, because, well,
Structure sold.
money talks.
Yes, sir.
Building.
Waiting orders.
Unit lost.
Oh yeah, also the AI, I'm not the only one who cheeses it by sending an APC or whatever into an enemy base with a bunch of engineers. So, wall off your construction yard, whatever you do.
Training.
It's just,
Unit ready.
you know, a sound decision.
Unit ready.
I guess I should also mention that the AI, and I'm not sure if this was true to the quote-unquote the original version,
Waiting orders.
but the AI really doesn't like repairing the bridge on that eastern base with the Temple of Nod and the Pyramid nuclear silo. It just kind of lets it do its thing.
Unit reporting.
Unit lost.
Unit reporting.
Building.
Yes, sir. Unit reporting. You got it.
If I was in a rush, I'd probably kill those tick tanks,
Unit reporting.
but I prefer not right now, just so that
Attack.
in the event I
Ready.
am not paying attention, those jump jet infantry won't land and then get immediately annihilated.
Waiting orders. Waiting order.
Building.
Unit ready. Unit
Construction complete.
I'm also not quite sure what that APC is trying to accomplish.
Construction
Yes, sir.
complete. Ion cannon ready. Cannot deploy here.
infantry reporting.
Building.
I'm also really glad those rocket infantry
Construction.
have a better job to do than bug me.
Building.
I'm taking heavy fire. Unit reporting. Unit ready. Orders received. Unit ready.
Under normal circumstances, you're...
Complete.
How do I put this? You want to mix up your defenses
Sir.
as GDI, mainly because... Well, this thing kind of applies to Nod as well, but for GDI, you always want to vary your defenses because RPG launchers are nice and all.
Unit ready.
They're a lot of fun to use, and watch as they explode things into tiny pieces. But the biggest issue with them is that they have no concept of friendly fire, which is understandable. It's a rocket-propelled grenade. Grenades are never your friend.
Yes, sir.
Building captured.
So you kind of want to be careful with placement on that.
Training.
The biggest issue is having them anywhere inside of your base perimeter, and it's probably something you should refrain from ever doing if possible. The fact that,
Unit ready.
unless you're paying attention to, you know, building life and all that sort of stuff, you end up just, you know, exploding your own structures, and that's obviously not a great thing.
Yes, sir.
Just like, you know, having a jump jet infantry die from some stupid crap.
You got it. Moving out. Awaiting orders.
I wish I knew what was setting off these harpies, because normally you have to get within, I guess, like a radius of their helipad for them to do stuff. So I don't know if maybe the hover MRLS was quote-unquote too close.
Base under attack. Unit.
I'm taking heavy fire.
Unit lost.
That's kind of one of the only good things about the Orcas too. If you're using air units anyways,
Unit ready.
they're a lot faster, so
Awaiting orders.
you can at least like have a better idea of what you're supposed to see when you fly over a nondescript island in the bottom left of the map.
Sir.
Unit ready.
Sir. You got it. Loud and clear.
If you haven't figured it out, that's where the last ICBM is.
I'm on it.
Insufficient funds.
Sir. Sir. Infantry reporting. Loud and clear. Moving out.
Unit
Good
lost.
as done.
Yeah, that was just me doing some unit upkeep because there's no real reason for me to keep that guy alive.
Sir.
Unit ready.
Yes, sir. Infantry reporting.
Building.
Again, while it's nice to want to vary up your defenses for GDI, on the outer perimeter, yeah, definitely put in a bunch of RPG launchers because they just ruin everybody's day.
Primary building set.
Unit
Training.
reporting. Unit reporting. Yes, sir.
I mean, the fact that infantry will automatically go prone on an attack from RPG launchers, and how they just
Unit lost.
mangle vehicles,
Unit,
it's just a safe bet.
unit lost. Unit lost.
You got it. Moving out. Yes, sir. Moving out.
Select target.
Yes, sir.
Target set.
Sir. Loud and clear. Good as done. Sir.
Unit lost. Unit ready.
Sir. Orders received.
I
Yes, sir.
don't get why the Harpies are against that sign. But hey, if they're
No problem.
gonna decide that civilian buildings are their primary target, then I'm not gonna bother stopping them.
Building captured.
Yes, sir. No problem. Infantry reporting.
Building captured.
Sir.
Insufficient
sir.
funds.
Yes, sir.
Getting back to the cutscenes we've seen so far, I have to wonder, do you, the viewer, assume that Nod's just got like this really good hollow tech stuff that I guess just like covers up Kane's injuries? Or maybe it's like some weird
Unit ready.
were trying to make him look more vulnerable. Again, I've already mentioned how maybe it could be Tiberium poisoning,
Waiting order. Loud and
but at the same time, it also lends credibility to the whole. You used an ion cannon last time to murder him. Well, attempted murder, anyways.
moving out.
And while that didn't work out, it
Sir.
also clearly shows that he didn't really get off scot-free.
Waiting orders. Unit reporting. Yes, sir. Got it.
Structure sold.
Waiting order. Loud and clear. Medic! Waiting. No problem. Waiting order. Moving out.
Unit lost. Building.
Sir? You got it. Waiting orders. Waiting orders. Waiting
Building
order.
captured.
Sir.
Unit ready.
as done.
Construction complete.
Oh, for those curious, that just... Those arrows, when I was selecting the construction yard, it's like the barracks. You can give priority to
Unit ready. Moving out.
Unit
Uh,
lost.
You got it.
specific building, or the specific construction yard, but it doesn't
Construction complete.
make any difference, so I don't know what its purpose is.
Unit lost.
Unit reporting. Engineering. Yes, sir. No problem. Competent. Yes, sir.
Structure sold. Building captured. Training.
Unit reporting.
Building captured. Unit ready.
Yes, sir.
Unit
No
lost.
problem.
Building lost. Unit ready.
Awaiting orders. No problem.
Building.
So yeah, at a certain point, you manage to infiltrate one of the bases, or you'll destroy one of the bases, and it kind of alleviates all the pressure that you'll feel from that side, obviously.
Building captured. Training. Ion tank ready.
Unit reporting.
The biggest things you'll want to really take out, I find, is the southeastern base.
Ready.
If you can knock that out, then you won't have to worry about, well, anything coming from that choke point, which isn't a big deal. It's more the fact that you're super close and connected to the Temple of Nod, and the Pyramid, and the nuclear silo.
Building captured. Unit
Being able to take out that is really the big prize of the mission.
Yes, sir. Orders received.
And even if you just manage to capture or destroy them, it's still worth everything you put into it. Not having to worry about all those friggin' missile launches, and you then don't have to worry about having a generator or any of the fire to storm walls attached to it.
unit ready.
It's just way more worth it.
Building captured.
No problem.
Unit ready.
Waiting orders.
On the plus side, however, if you do decide to actually put time into capturing the base, you can then invest in, say,
Ready. Yes, sir.
your own Tiberium missiles.
Awaiting orders.
Unit
Affirmative.
ready. Unit ready. Select target.
Unit ready.
Yeah, sadly, one ion cannon cannot take out a construction yard by itself.
Unit
It makes sense, because if you had that superpower in, like, multiplayer and you used it,
Waiting orders.
yeah, it's not really fun when you're playing against that sort of, like, immediate loss condition.
unit ready.
Infantry reporting.
ready.
Unit reporting. Unit reporting.
Unit lost.
Now, we have only rarely seen it. I'm going to get some nod repair vehicles, which are nice. They have an issue, though, and I feel like it's the same sort of problem you get with the medic. There's just no real way to keep them safe. So, while there's a net benefit to having them, if you can keep them in pristine working condition, it generally won't be the case, just because of the nature of the combat you're dealing with. I've only just noticed it, but it's also rather interesting that if you happen to take out a specific nod base, the harvesters from that particular base just don't work anymore. It's interesting because I would have assumed that the AI would have just transferred them over to the next, available unit or location. But maybe it has something to do with them being individual players and not necessarily a team, so to speak. As an aside, it's also kind of funny to me that in taking out the bridge, the AI now sends its harvesters completely around the map just so that it can harvest anything. I don't think those tick tanks were actually shooting at the weed eaters either. I'm not sure if that's a misobservation by myself or something else going on. Yeah, I wasn't expecting another artillery to just be hanging out in the fog of war. I should have probably gotten a Orca carryall, but I guess at this point I haven't even built a helipad. Hey, finally, the last unit, the Orca bomber. Who knew it would take me the entire campaign to build those? The Orca bomber is just like you would expect with with any flying unit. Also, that's why the mammoth kind of sucks. Granted, that's all me playing poorly with the mammoth tank, but I'm gonna blame it on it anyways. It's just not as cool as the original mammoth tank. So, Orca Bomber, basically it lays in a flight path, drops 4 bombs, I think it was. Does that thing several times before eventually going back home and reloading. Much like the Orca Fighter, it takes a long time to reload. Is it 100% worth it? It depends. It is a super high damage threshold, though. So, if you build, I'd say even like 2 of them, could probably easily take out a construction yard. 3 or 4, you're definitely safe, and it'll crumble. But anyways, I also feel like I need to reiterate all the unit bonuses, since I haven't really talked about them in a while. And, well, the Orca Bomber is the last unit, so... When it comes to the walkthrough, which I believe I already mentioned is different from the rules any file in like a few minor ways. So the Destroyer, much like the infantry and jump jet infantry, automatically scatter if they're going to be run over, which is always nice. The Hover MRLS self-repairs, which it's like the Mammoth 2. I don't believe it's a full repair, it's just a small repair, which is still nice. The Titan can sense subterranean and stealth units, which, frankly, I don't believe the range is all that great. So even though that's nice to have, it's never going to be substantial. It's a nice bonus, sure, but, you know, this will usually happen anyways. Something will decloak, shoot you first, and then you're left picking up the pieces. The Wolverine is immune to Tiberium veins, which is always nice, but honestly, you're not going to really have too many Tiberium vein fields lying around. And at this point in the game, you're, one, never getting a Wolverine to survive for that long, and two, well, good luck getting it to General, you know, if you can get it that high. Orca Fighter quizzically has no bonus, according to the walkthrough, and the Orca Bomber gets a very handy invisible to enemy radar. It might not seem like the biggest deal. It's not a super strong upgrade, mind you, but against a human player, if you're not expecting it, and you suddenly have a player that tosses his Orca Bombers around the map just to get around AA defenses, it's pretty nice. It also makes it so that you can constantly harass, and you'll never know quite when the bombers will drop, especially if you can keep your opponent, you know, occupied with other tasks. And the only reason I walked anybody through those Tiberium veins is, one, to give you an idea as to how crazy it is in terms of damage, but also, how do I put this? Tiberium veins are something you want to avoid, basically. I'll be honest, I was hoping for...
Orders received. Yes, sir.
Oh my god, I'm blanking on them.
Unit reporting.
I was hoping to mutate a lot of those infantry, but I don't know if it's... I don't know if it's like a property of the AI, but I couldn't get infantry to turn into... aliens. God, why am I blanking on the name? Anyways.
Building.
Yeah, I was hoping like a lot of infantry.
Training.
I'll mutate them all, and then they'll be forced to like fight each other, and it didn't work.
Death from above.
Unit ready. Unit ready.
As we saw long time ago, when it comes to airstrikes, like with the 810s and so on, and the Yaks, especially the Yaks of Red Alert, you want to, I don't want to say practice, but take into consideration the attack pattern of an Orca Bomber when you're sending them out. The fact that they will like pre-fire a little bit to lead into their target just means that you could be wasting some shots if you don't position it properly.
Complete.
Sir.
Unit lost.
Unit ready. Moving out. Waiting feathers. Yes, sir. No problem.
Building captured.
And this is basically the end. If it wasn't obvious enough anyways.
On my way. Sir?
I still don't think I'll ever have a real appeal for Harpies. I mean, it's nice that they're anti-infantry, I guess, but... eh.
Ready.
For a second, the delay there, I thought that the bombers had, like, killed their own. Just with how they were all positioned.
Sir? Pilot over and out, sir.
Oh, and now you have to
Yes.
kind of scour the map to see where the last red pixel is. I don't know.
Structure sold. Building.
I'll spot it eventually, I'm sure.
Unit ready.
Construction
Yes, sir.
complete. Silos needed.
Can you spot the last enemy unit?
Deploy here. Primary building set. Unit ready.
He's not in a Tiberium field, and I'm pretty sure at this point I'm also like sticking my face up against my monitor just so I can see. Oh,
Reporting.
there it is.
Mission accomplished.
Still giving orders, Commander. You really should learn to pay attention. I have your mutant, and I have your wound.
Kill him! Forget about me! Don't let him win!
Your mission's grounded. It's over. You're only delaying the inevitable. I have the Tacitus. I am invincible. The Tacitus told me of Tiberium missiles, of invulnerable flying ships, of real-time genetic mutation. More than alien. More than human. The next step in our evolution as a species.
You're not God, Kane.
No, I'm not God. But I'm a close second. I am the future. The Tiberian sun has risen!
Not in my world! That's an order.
Will it work? Might also kill her.
We have to test it. It could save my people. If this is if I... Thanks, Mac.
I love to win.
Not bad for a blunt.
And with that, we have the end of the GDI campaign. Kane is dead, presumably. McNeil gets the girl, and they ride off into the literal sunset. I hope everybody who's been watching so far has enjoyed the playthrough through the GDI stuff. I've tried my best to show off as much as possible, and I believe I will be doing the map video after this one, rather than going through the entire 2 campaigns and then doing an extended map video, just for the sake of continuity, and so that by the time I'm done the nod stuff, we don't forget everything about the GDI stuff. There's a couple of names and characters that we haven't seen yet in this list, so be aware of spoilers attributed to that. Otherwise, I look forward to hearing and seeing more comments from you guys for the nod stuff, after the map video, of course. As always, thanks for watching.